To reconnect, okay, we've got that, and that's working again for the moment. Now, in case you missed some of it, you go back to Free American, go to today's show, click on the link there, you can hear my comments earlier. I'm saying and I'm telling you, basically, the YouTube isn't working properly. It keeps dumping and locking up. But I'm trying again here. Sometime third time's the charm. Maybe it'll work this time. Jade Helm could be a gift from God. I've told you, I don't want to shoot nobody. I don't want, and you ain't gonna shoot nobody, and not as long as I'm standing beside you. You're not going to fight and be afraid of and consider our troops, our sons, our daughters, our soldiers, our veterans. You are to consider them to be the enemy. If they're going in the wrong direction, you talk to them just like I talk to the mayor. You talk just like I talk to the city council members. I am not overly impressed with the concept of Pauline Christianity, but I go to a church every Sunday. I listen to the preacher as he preaches Ephesians and preaches the teachings of Paul and the writings of Paul more than he does the writings of Jesus. But they're not my enemies. They're not my enemies. They're just people that haven't studied as much as I have. This is why when communists take over, they go after the farmers first and they go after the intelligentsia next. Anyone that's smart enough to know what they're doing. Anyone that studied history. And this is again where I'm happy that Dr. Jake Wade called me today, because the Bible, does it give us prophecy or does it just lay out their plans 2,000 years ahead of time? One of the things that I want to talk about today, because 45 years ago I wrote a fictional story about the United States at a time in the future when victimless crimes had been abolished and we didn't have a police state. When I wrote that, we had much less of a police state than we do now. Now it's going to take some editing to go back, because I was accurate in a great many details 45 years ago. Colorado has made marijuana legal. Texas is talking about it. And possibly it's because I've talked about it. I helped finance and put out the Emperor Wears No Clothes, sold that for many years. It was written by Jack Hara, a Jewish friend of mine who did wonderful work exposing the reasons hemp was made illegal, because it benefited the Rockefellers, it benefited the merchants. It benefited the merchants, and they used the press to demonize hemp, calling it marijuana. So 45 years ago, I was writing about what's happening now. And there is more coming out that I wrote about that I just have to edit. So I'm going to be writing science fiction to show you, basically, why everything that I've talked about in this show is doable. Even the money is there for the high-speed rail, the maglev trains. Leo Wanto, Ambassador Leo Wanto, has been on my show before, and so you could just go back and even the congressman that they sent to prison, he was on my show. And then they killed him 2 weeks later. We're in a war. They don't want somebody with my studies and my access to information. I've been friends and been in the home of former FBI directors, and of course they go after him too. And the same person that has gone after Ted Gunderson went after me, tried to keep me from connecting with Veterans Today. And when Gordon Duff saw through him, fired him, he went after Gordon Duff. They send people in to go after gifts, and they do that. Why are you going on the Clay Douglas show? Why shouldn't I? And I'm telling you right now, there's nobody in the militia, there's nobody in the Patriot movement that wants you to see a civil war get started between our police and our citizens, between our soldiers and our citizens. And that's why we have to go out and talk to them. And, hold on. Let me, okay, hold on a second. Thank God I saved this one. And let's keep in mind the wording on this. You should be angry about Jade Helm even if you're not crazy. Now, I'm looking at a photograph of an inline target. This is a shooting range target that is being used by Homeland Security, by our armed services. And the bullet holes punched into the center mass of this pistol-packing suburban soccer mom weren't fired by ISIS terrorists preparing for a shopping mall assault, or by local cops training against an active shooter at the local school. They were fired by a Marine during Special Operations Realistic Military Training, or RMT, in Gulfport, Mississippi. Another place I've been. Wonderful, okay, let's try this in here. Hang on. Alright. Everything's still working. Everything's still working. Realistic military training. That's what they are planning on doing here, folks. With Jade Helm or Hade Helm or whatever you call it. Now, this training took place. This training was called Raven 1503. That took place at locations across the Gulf Coast of the United States in February in order to give the 3rd Marine Special Operations Battalion a chance to practice helicopter-borne and vessel-borne insertion, breaching techniques, fast roping, and close-quarter battle techniques in populated environments, according to a Marine Corps press release. The press release didn't address the details of the realistic scenario dreamed up by the Marine Special Operations Command that involved gunning down a married civilian woman with a recent manicure. Realistic military training in which military forces leave their bases and practice how to kill people out in the real world are relatively recent phenomena. One such exercise of this group, Jade Helm, has been seized on recently by right-wing paranoids who suspect that Barack Obama is using it to rehearse an invasion of Texas. But here's one thing. They are not altogether wrong. What knucklehead decided that for Raven 1503, an appropriate shooting target would be a soccer mom? And who decided that despite owning 31 million acres, that's 48,000 square miles, the military now needs to sulk around off base because it would be more realistic to operate amongst the civilian population, also known as America? No one decided. It just happened, and then the shit hit the fan, and that's good. The first off-base exercise of this sort occurred in 2012, and since then 2 types of these particular exercises have been held throughout America. The Marines' Raven experience and Jade Helm, held by their Army Special Forces counterparts. Jade Helm is particularly focused on what intelligence preparation of the battle space, and called intelligence preparation of the battle space, IPB, and the skills of surveillance and cell phone interception or targeting that goes on in the Middle East and Africa. Now, most of the people who are riled up under Jade Helm, which is scheduled to be held off military bases in the southwestern United States, are nuts. They're racist opportunists who couldn't hit the target if they were standing in front of it, and they harbor paranoid fantasies about the impending imposition of martial law. But that doesn't mean the military is justified in using parts of this country that they don't already own as a spying and killing training ground. The Jade Helm conspiracy crowd is too busy railing about Obama's imperial agenda and some vague, rapacious federal government in Washington to stand up to the proper target, which is the U.S. military. It isn't Obama directing these off-base war games. It's his generals, specifically the Special Operations community, which benefits from public awe and endless war, deciding what's secret and what's not, and then arrogantly, thoughtlessly, and often stupidly pursues whatever it needs to prepare for war without limit. Realistic military training is in vogue now because the military has lost Iraq, Afghanistan to run around in. So it's established a new set of clandestine drills off military lands and civilian areas. One document obtained by Phase Zero identifies an $80 million program of advanced special operations in the southwestern United States to enhance the intelligence collection skills of the Army Special Forces. That sounds an awful lot like Jade Helm, but it's not just Texas and it's not just the Southwest. And if people imagine they see uniformed and civilian clothes soldiers doing weird things in the mountains or even inside small towns, or they see black helicopters flying at night, well, they are. The first Raven was held in 2012, and Raven 1401 and 1402 took place November 2013 and March 2014, or in and around Fort Irwin, California. For Raven 1402, the Marine Special Operators even set up a mock forwarding operating base Santa Fe in the Mojave Desert. Raven 1502 was held in October and November 2014 in South Carolina, including in Columbia and Charleston harbors. Raven 1503 was held in the second week of February and included the soccer mom attack. Had those targets. The so-called Special Operations Forces, Category 3 RMT events, involve highly classified special operations and scenarios and drills held in preparation for upcoming deployments in different parts of the world. They are intentionally held in civilian areas to practice clandestine operations. The writer of this does not have all of the information. In my film, True Face of FEMA, still available at freeamerican.com, shop.freeamerican.com. The True Face of FEMA filmed the first Homeland Security meeting, and Colonel John Brinkerhoff was lecturing law enforcement and telling them, we're in for a war, a long war. It may go on longer than the Cold War, and the enemy's weak. The enemy doesn't have planes, helicopters, and tanks. So the enemy will use unconventional methods, and we have to respond that way. Now, there are all sorts of rules for military operations off the federal property, including requirements to notify local law enforcement and state and local government officials. They are doing that, and I will be talking with the mayor to see what he's been informed of. The 2014 Defense Department regulation on conducting realistic military training has rules for everything. But when it comes to these SOF Category 3 RMT events, it delegates relative exclusive oversight to the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for special operations and low-intensity conflict. In other words, these exercises are very secret, and who is notified and what is said publicly is limited. Forget the Texas governor and the Tea Party and the tinfoil hat crowd and how America has strayed from some imaginary, harmonious, and bipartisan past. Spare me the polite talk about the elevating the debate and the sage commentators dampening concerns about the truth behind Jade Helm. The American people are not ignorant. It's not martial law, and it's not the Obama administration, but there is something going on, and it's out of control. Who is the U.S. military aiming its guns at, and why? It's that pure and simple. And, by the way, the target in Handgun Threat 9 from a government and police contractor called Target Online. They offer 169 different silhouettes to choose from, only 30 cents each when purchased in bulk. Zombie targets are available too. Someone in the bureaucracy decided to buy this particular target for the Raven exercise. Someone approved it, and then the purchase was made with our tax dollars. And then the moms were delivered and put on stakes, and dozens or hundreds of Marines looked at them and what? They probably giggled, then shot them anyway. And then an official military photographer took pictures of the training, and then a military officer approved the photo for public release. When then the picture went from the Marine Corps up the chain of the command to the official Defense and Video Imagery Distribution Center Systems, DVIDS, if you like the government acronyms. The first time anyone within miles of the White House probably even heard of Jade Helm was when the Texas government, and I don't know or care how dumb or smart he is, said, hold on a minute, good for him. What's the expression? We get the government we deserve. Now, this was written by William Arkin, A-R-K-I-N, at gawker.com. If you're into the theater being underground, you can anonymously deliver tips through the Gawker Media Secure Drop. Yeah, thanks. I think it's a gift. I think it's a gift. Let's see if this thing's working here. Okay, got that. And we'll see if we got anybody else in the chat room. No. All right. Probably got more things to worry about than Jade Helm. And I'm telling you, the way I told you to handle it, go up and talk to them. Talk to your mayors. Talk to your city councilmen. They may not know any more than you do. Share this show. I am no longer just a right-wing extremist or anti-government. I'm telling people the truth. I am interviewing your leaders. Your leaders. The mayor was a great conversation. Now, there's something else coming in, and maybe Jade Helms. Maybe Jade Helm is a distraction from this. Let's see, Speaker of the House, then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, encouraging rapid passage of Obamacare in 2010. We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what's in it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Orrin Hatch may soon give the President authority to write gun control restrictions in a trade agreement. Whether they are liberal or conservative, you need to write your senators if it'll do any good, and urge them to vote against the anti-gun fast-track bill, Senate Bill 995. And this from Gun Owners of America. I'll get Larry Pratt back on my show shortly to talk about this. Will UN-style gun control be rammed down our throats? Gun import bans, micro-stamping of firearms, ammunition bans, full implementation of the anti-gun UN arms trade treaty, illegal amnesty which locks in millions of new anti-gun voters. This anti-gun wish list could be part of the secret agreement that Obama is ready to spring on Congress. This trade pact is called Fast Track, and what it means is that Obama can write any form of gun control he chooses into a trade agreement, import bans, amnesty, etc. And this agreement doesn't need two-thirds vote in the Senate as a treaty would. When completed, the agreement is merely subject to a majority vote in both houses. It can't be filibustered, it can't be amended, and the GOP can't refuse to consider it. The top secret TPP means you won't know what is in the bill. Now, reports have already surfaced that the top secret draft contains a whole chapter with European Union style provisions allowing unlimited immigration from Mexico into the United States. This would fulfill Obama's dream, which he began with executive amnesty, to import millions of new anti-gun liberal voters into the country. Of course, we can't quote for you any language in the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, because the document's top secret. Obama won't reveal it, even to most congressmen, and Congress, until Congress has given it its imprimatur by allowing it to pass under fast-track procedures. On Monday, Politico reported, if you want to hear the details of the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal with the Obama administration, the Obama administration is hoping to pass, you got to be a member of Congress. You got to go to classified briefings and leave your staff and cell phone at the door. If you're a congressional member who wants to read the text, you got to go to a room in the basement of the Capitol Visitor Center and be handed it one section at a time, watched over as you read, and forced to hand over any notes you make before leaving. No matter what, you can't discuss the details of what you read, even more than Obamacare. This is a case you have to pass it to find out what's in it. Some Republicans are being duped, but that's not all. The fast-track authority granted to Obama and his successor for the next 6 years applies to whatever type of trade negotiation Obama chooses to enter into. We'll continue this for you, folks. On the other side, Break Truth Radio, hang on, Crusade Radio, we'll be right back.
Hello, friends. This is RJ, the Mighty Phoenix. Friends, if you're a business owner and need capital to sustain or accentuate your business, and if you've been in business for 2 years or more, and your credit scores are low as 500, I can help you. Credit scores don't pay back with money that you borrow. Credit scores are only weapons being used against you in the war on small business. You pay back money that you borrow with business monies earned. So if you have 6 recent bank statements and your business is active, and as I said, you've been in business for over 2 years, I can get you money within 8 business days. Contact me at R as in Russell, J as in James, P as in Peter, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, at yahoo.com. That's RJTPAPA at yahoo.com. And if you're not in business and you need to earn extra cash and you don't want to go out and work for someone who's going to take advantage of you, or you don't want to spend the money to gas and get paid minimum wage, you can work with me, not for me, and earn big commissions. And all you need to do is place ads on the computer, on the internet, on Craigslist, on Backpage, on other sites, in the financial section. Only 15 minutes a day. Again, contact me at rjtpapa@yahoo.com. Leave your cell phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll discuss the issue. I can help you. Again, rjtpapa@yahoo.com. Have a great day, folks.
All right. We're back. Got the coffee warmed up. Spinning it as we speak. Putting that energy that God gave us, put inside us. We can use that, we can project it, we can influence. But most of all, we can talk to people. Now, the information I'm giving you right now, I'm telling you, whatever their plan for Jade Helm, they rule us by consensus. If you keep your mouth shut, then they assume that you've gone along with the consensus. That has to stop. We have to hold our city council meeting. We have to hold our county commissioners. We have to hold our mayors and public officials. And do exactly what the governor of Texas told you to do. Keep an eye on them. Hey guys, so what are you doing? What's your orders here? Is this top secret? What are we doing here? Who are you training for? What are you training for? What are they telling you? Let's talk about this. This is how I get my information. This is how every reporter I know gets his information. Honest reporters. Let's check this. I'm going to do something a little different here, but we're talking about this this UN Arms Trade Treaty. He can if this new fast track authority exists, so he can write the UN Arms Trade Treaty into a trade agreement that can't be filibustered or amended or prevented from consideration. Tragically, many conservative Republicans have listened to the business lobbyists who are focused on the free trade issues without considering the impact on personal liberties and have endorsed fast track. But one business leader recently took Republican lawmakers to the woodshed for this. By now, congressional Republicans should know better. The Obama administration has stonewalled Congress on many issues: guns to Mexico, the IRS scandal, and this president has ignored the law and bypassed Congress on such matters as executive amnesty and Berdal prisoner exchange. The alleged economic benefits of Trans-Pacific Partnership, and they are minimal, not to trump the Constitution, the law, and the proper use of fast track. And it is significant that in Senator Orrin Hatch's 114-page bill specifying the goals of U.S. trade negotiations, S-995, there's not a single word prohibiting Obama from using the agreements to implement gun control, and yet that gun control will be just as binding as if Congress enacted in a statute. And this coming from Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt. And he is urging you to contact your senators, no matter whether they are conservative or liberal, urge them to vote against the anti-gun fast-track bill S-995. All right. Now, I ran across this gentleman, Stan Deyo, talking about the UFOs. UFOs are real. I have written books about them, giving you a little different view on them that haven't been released yet. They have not been released yet. But I'm going to do something a little different, and I'm going to release them chapter by chapter because it's already written. It's already written. It was planned out 45 years ago. And in looking for that, one of the things I intend to write about is Lucifer, because I frankly believe there's more to that legend, more to the whole biblical story, and we've talked about this, Jehovah, the god Baal, the demon Baal, the fact that Satan poses as God, and he promised somebody, he promised Jesus, all the kingdoms on earth if he'd go along with him. They've tried to put the blame on Lucifer. I don't necessarily believe that, but Stan Deyo has a different take on it. And I believe that we ought to listen to intelligent men, no matter what their persuasion. Stan Deyo is a Christian. And I'm critical of some of the Christian churches. I'm critical of some of their cornerstones put on by the Master Masons. I've talked about Pauline Christianity, and I tell you, don't believe anything I tell you. Research it for yourself. This is what I do, and this is how I come up with the right answers. Now, let me see if I can get Stan Deyo up here. We're trying to pull that up right now. Talking about Lucifer and the coming strong deception. Now, that doesn't matter what name you put on it. Call it satanic, call it Luciferian. Frankly, I believe...
Every small business has a story. It's season 2 of the Wells Fargo Works project. Think of me.
This Lucifer, like mythic gods, keeps coming back, and there's other views on what he is. An angel of light. Even Jesus, they talk about Jesus being the light. Now, what I wrote 45 years ago is fiction. We will be talking about Lucifer, just as scientists Stan Deyo, very big in the UFO movement. Just telling you. Don't know that I agree with his conclusions, but we should listen to him. We should take it into mind. I mean, and you know, if you think somebody is your enemy, you need to know your enemy. Know the tactics. Phenomena is important, and so is our history. Was the story of Noah about maintaining the DNA found of the creatures on this planet?
And I know some people say what I'm going to go into now, predestination, but
got some nice pictures of Nazi UFOs flying here.
that's reflections in the dark.
Thank you for having me back.
Stan Deyo.
Yes, I think I've heard that a time or two, that banana boat song.
Well, it just is what it is. But Stan, you've been here before. Most of the people probably listening know who you are. If they don't, they probably have just never been introduced to you, or they're new to it, because we've acquired a lot of new listeners over the years. But you didn't start out in the whole prophecy, end time scenario. You started out as an actual, real, honest to goodness scientist and researcher, correct?
Yes, I did training at IBM in Dallas into systems and large systems operations, systems programming, and about 6 languages there. And then did private research in ways to get alternate energy and make a flying saucer. And was recruited to the Congress group.
Isn't it amazing how all of that fit right into where we are in history, and then eschatology and everything else? Everything that you were studying beforehand applies now.
I know the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I do often think back over my life and think, wow, it was really a blessing to have all these things happen and to be able to live in this time and use the information to help folks.
I'm of the belief that since he orders our steps, and I know some people say what I'm going to go into now is predestination, but he knows the end from the beginning. And I think in certain cases, he sends an angel, even himself, kind of just gently nudges us towards a specific path on which we either meet the right person or pick up the right experiences. And then somewhere down the road, you look back and go, oh, that's why I met that person, or that's why I learned that information.
And this was given to me or sent to me yesterday. This is exactly what I feel. 21st century, God's alive and well and uses the internet. Why not? Burning bushes might be just a little passé. So I think Stan Deyo is on the right track. Again, based on the information we get, we may come to different conclusions, and I am a big what-if fan. What if that wasn't true? What if someone else said that? What if they tried to demonize Lucifer the way they've tried to demonize Clay Douglas? Listen.
If you listened to the show last week, folks, I mentioned that I start every morning when I do all my research after I'm done praying, because I start my day with the Lord. And sandeyo.com is where one of the first places I'll head, because he and Holly are, I think, one of the best at accumulating what's going on in the world at that moment and in that week. So, Stan, our theme has been 2013, what's coming. If I just say to you, Stan, what's coming, what's the first thing you think of?
I guess the first thing would be probably an economic chaos in the United States, possibly at the same time, but very close to that, civil disorder, the roots of revolution over the gun grab things and various other mechanisms that the White House has put into play and will put into play to cause us to revolt. They want us to be up in arms and storming the Bastille so they can, I guess, put us down and put into place a new world order once they've made America weak from inside.
Again, this is exactly what I've been telling you. Divide and conquer. They want you fighting the police. They want you, and they will, you draw down on somebody, they will kill you. That's what we were trained to do. So, again, Stan Deyo is right on, right here.
I think this year we're going to see several things. The start will be probably in the Middle East, which will trigger economic problems as well as the internal problems we've got here. But the Iranian nuclear threat to Israel and the declared intent of destroying it means that we will probably see within the next 2 or 3 months a flare-up which could drive us to the edge of World War III, if not right into it. I'm looking at prophecy and saying that may not happen till the end of the tribulation, but certainly we're going to think we're at that door, and that will create chaos in the world economies.
Well, I'm sure you know that President Obama is making his first trip to Israel, and he will be in Jerusalem on March 20th. That's the scheduled date, which also happens to be the date in the Jewish calendar that Yeshua entered Jerusalem on the back of the donkey, and I do not believe that that's a coincidence. So,
no,
do
he's
you
arriving
believe?
at Purim.
Yes. Do you think that that is going to be a harbinger of something? I have my theories. I've made the mistake of sharing them with some people and gotten them a little frightened or a little concerned. But do you think that between that trip, the Pope's resignation, the new Pope, Netanyahu, for some bizarre reason, giving the Vatican the entire second floor of a building on Mount Zion for their archives, and then the seat on the council above the tomb of David, all of that, I believe, ties together. Do you believe March is going to be an explosive month for us?
You mean beware the Ides of March?
Well, yes, literally.
Well, it could well be. There are a number of issues that we don't know when Netanyahu is going to be forced into action that come to play in March. The estimated, or at least the public estimated, time for the completion of a viable nuclear strike system from Iran is, the deadline is March, and it may have already passed, and they may be getting ready to make an attack, stage attack perhaps, on Israel from not only Iran but from.
Now, the problem that I have with this, Stan Deyo, when they start taking up for Israel, they maybe, perhaps, unwittingly begin working on the other side, and I believe Stan has bought into this whole chosen people, and is interpreting the Bible that way. There is another interpretation. You don't know who most people don't know who the true Israelites were. They certainly aren't the Ashkenazis that now occupy Israel, or occupy Palestine and call it Israel. These are part of the people that are trying to put us down, so I'm not buying into this, but it's these same people that would crucified Jesus and would crucify Lucifer if they could get their hands on him. They've tried to make you equate the name Lucifer come on. They've tried to equate the name of Lucifer with that of Satan. I think you're better comparing the God of the Jews to Baal, to Satan himself.
Syria, maybe from Damascus, which does beg the question, what happens to Damascus overnight, one night that it is no more and becomes a ruinous heap. All those things do look like they could occur within March, April, between now and Passover, Pesach.
It's also interesting that March 20th is the spring equinox, and in the satanic world, that's a high holy day that demands blood sacrifice. So I would probably expect some kind of rise in terrorist activity, or maybe nothing. I mean, the interesting thing about all this, we are discussing it, and it could happen, it couldn't happen, but the signs seem to be blinking, alert, alert, alert. Speaking of alerts, meteors. What's going on with all the meteors and suddenly appearing in the sky?
You mean the bright flashes over various parts of the world, China, California,
yes.
and Russia? Well,
yeah,
you got to
understand
that there was no connection, you understand, between the DA-14, 2014, and 2012, and the other things that came afterwards and before. But as far as I'm concerned, that's hooey. There was a lot of debris in the orbit of this comet that passed so close to us, and we're still getting hits from it even today, from small pieces that broke off. Now, I don't know why they would want to turn the public eye in some of the direction. I really can't see the value of it, but they are doing everything they can to tell us that it was one of the most unusual coincidences, high highly improbable that two would strike in the same 24 hours, and certainly all the rest of them in the last 4 days. But yeah, there are things like this that are quite frightening out there to people that study the stars, professionals, because they can't see them. Even with infrared telescopes, if the body is moving in space is cold enough, they're not going to pick it up. And it sneaks up on us until we get it on optical scopes. Even with image intensifiers, we don't see it all the time, and then suddenly there it is on your doorstep, and whammy. There are at least 500, maybe more, large asteroids floating around out there. They estimate statistically, and from other patterns of meteors from the asteroid belt right on down to where we are, that there are others out there. There's 500 others that are large enough to do us damage, but they don't know where they are.
I got to say this too. Listening to the conversation and all of us talking, in the world right now, if you're not spiritual, or if you're somebody that doesn't believe in, say, scripture or the coming of the end and all that stuff, surely there's a lot going on that should be of an alert to somebody who's not a believer, or somebody who doesn't think that just by what is happening politically, what is happening with the atmosphere, with the asteroids, like you said, the meteors, all these things. But Stan, my question to you is, along with all this madness that's going on, whether it's political, whether it's, strange, bizarre incidences that happen with the wildlife, everything. I mean, you name it, we can make a whole list from now until next week. What about, running parallel to all this, the consistent UFO sightings that have been reported all around the world? And a lot of it has probably, I'd say, November, December, all the way till now. There's been many, many reports if you look at the data banks, and even as well as in Israel. What is your take on that? Where is this all becoming a play with everything else that's happening? Is it all connected somehow, or is it just way out there in left field and we're just getting bombarded with a bunch of things? What is the agenda from this point on?
All right. Joe, several things have to happen in the current environment to bring the world to a one-world government. Now, this you don't have to speak prophecy to see this. The one-world government has been spoken of from the time of Bush and even before that, but certainly from the White House by the time of Bush and forward. They are moving toward making a unified planet, which I have no objection to a unified planet under the proper guidance, like, in my opinion, Jesus Christ being the king of the planet and running it because he knows how to make everything work instead of trying to do it by trial and error. Now, anyway, having said that we're headed toward that world government from a secular point of view, world point of view, several things have to happen to bring the peoples, the religions, the cultures, the political structures of 196 nations together and get them to agree on this common government, a common economy, common defense, everything. The Hindus, the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, the Buddhists, there are going to be people tugging in every direction from the religious factions about how the laws should be and how this whole new world order should be run. To overcome that is going to take a grand deception. And funnily enough, biblical scripture in the New Testament does speak about a grand deception occurring, huge deception, biggest in the history of man, in the end times, which I think we're in. But even if you don't think that, here's what political structures behind the scenes planned back in the late 40s, early 50s. And that is this. The League of Nations and the United Nations had at that time both proven that we could not get multiple nations and religious bodies and cultural differences to come together to agree on whether to paint a street sign yellow or red, something simple as that. Can't get them to agree on simple things, much less a world government, a world economy. Hitler had proven in World War II that by force you could not hold the world hostage and run it like a fiefdom. It just didn't work because the French resistance proved that they could keep breaking down things, bridges, bombs, and fuel dumps and that kind of stuff, and so cripple a tyrannical government that it wouldn't be practical. There would be uprisings. So I thought, well, is there a third alternative? By peace we can't do it. By force we can't get the people to agree. And the idea was struck upon, why don't we have a fake alien invasion? We'll hide technology, we'll build an underground base and under ice and underwater bases, and we will build a fake alien race, threaten, come back in years to come, and threaten the Earth with annihilation or with our help, depending, how they want to do it. We can just walk off while they're in the middle of a nuclear war and weather catastrophes and shortages and let them die in their own mess, or we can offer them a world government like, quote-unquote, we the aliens have organized in our worlds, and it'll be like Star Trek, and it'll be the United Earth for the Federation, and everything will be happy times if you just agree to follow our model. That way we can coerce the peoples and the religions and cultures of the world into agreeing to try this new world government for a period of time until suddenly they realize it works, and we won't have all the resistance from the various viewpoints. To overcome the religious biases, we're going to have some sort of a commander of this alien force that can convince them that he's either from the source or the source of all these legends about the Messiah and the prophets and, God and this kind of stuff. Well, now, this is what this group was planning to do in the late 40s. At the same time, there was an alleged, and I think it was real, crash at Roswell in 47 of a flying saucer. At least one there, one further down the track. There were alien bodies in it. I've talked to family members of one of the pilots that actually flew some of the bodies back to Fort Worth. So, in my opinion, it's not alleged. They were really there. A short time later, in the early 50s, mankind, and I say mankind meaning most of the Western world, not China so much, but the European nations, NATO, the United States, a lot of the Western world Axis powers had joined together to make this private underground technological development so that they could make this grand deception about a fake alien landing. And when they realized that we did have little gray critters and tall gray critters here, they decided that maybe they could join with them, hold them at bay, develop our technology to protect ourselves for real, but also work with them in an effort to use them to bring the world's nations together into a happy world government. And our human people involved in that, I'm sure, were thinking, well, if we can make a deal with the aliens to make the pitch to the other nations, it'll be for real. We won't have to do it by ourselves. And, hey, if we do cooperate with them and make a treaty now, we can be in the new world government and carve out a place for ourselves. Well, that's the way it started in the 50s. And there was a National Security Directive, number 5412, which did set up the advisory board of 12 gentlemen at the time to oversee the development of these technologies we were getting from the aliens, the alleged aliens, and to be sure that the aliens didn't overstep their boundaries. Now, where I part from this secular view is that I am positive that these alleged aliens are manufactured like cyborgs, half biological, half machine, electronics, whatever, more advanced than ours, and that they're like soulless computers with a job to do, and by our comparison, a very, very big intellect, and that they were created by beings that look like us, maybe slightly taller and healthier, but humans, and these are the fallen ones spoken of in the ancient Sumerian records, the Watchers, part of the Watchers, and also the fallen ones that followed Satan in the Judeo-Christian context. Now, why would they create these little gray critters and the tall gray critters, put them in flying saucers, contact man, make a deal to work underground, develop underground bases all over the planet, hide the technology from the people of Earth, and to set up this one world government in concert? Why would they do this? Why didn't they just come in and tell us what they were going to do? Why didn't Satan or Lucifer, whoever the head of this organization is, why didn't he just do that? The reason is they were cast down and are being cast down to our level of the universes, from a parallel universe to our universe. They didn't get the technology with them. They were cast out. And when they were cast out, they had minimal technology getting through the portals that opened up all over the planet in the atmosphere, because Satan is, according to the old records, his domain, his principality is the air. And somewhere at a certain certain altitude up in there, I think there's probably a way to make a portal gate from God's universe to our universe, and perhaps one level down to home, to hell. But anyway, what they did is they had to come here and to recruit mankind to help them build a manufacturing complexes underground and hidden bases all over the planet, so that Satan and his people could build weapons and transport and technology they need to fight the Messiah, the true Messiah, Jesus, when he comes through the portal and announces his presence here to take his throne back and the title deed to earth. Now, I have to mix Bible and secular together here because we're getting into areas that are just so much current events that you have to see where they tie into prophecy to really get a grasp of what's going on. So Satan and his people wanted to use mankind to develop infrastructure so that to a point where they could mine their own minerals, do their own electronics, make their own weaponry, make their own transports, underground, underwater, in space, whatever. And as soon as they were through with humans, they would then disengage themselves from us, kicking us out of these bases and cutting us off. And there was no need for them to even let any humans be involved in the government that they're planning for the whole world. Well, in the late 70s, the group that I worked for, I was recruited by Dr. Edward Teller's group. These people were the humans involved in cooperating with the fallen ones, allegedly aliens, to build these bases and the technology for them. In the late 70s, after I'd left the group, the humans were kicked out in numerous battles across the planet, underground, underwater, under ice caps, whatever. They were kicked out of our bases, and the bases were fully then under the control of Satan and those who follow him. Since that time, they have, I'm sure, exponentially developed technologies they will need to fight the Messiah when he comes through the portal from the heavens, the upper universe. The world leader of this time will probably be a human or humanoid before, Satan probably takes him over completely. But there's going to be a human at the head of the world government. I'm sure of this from reading in the book of Daniel and translating just 8 verses, a very fastidious, tedious way of translating that I've developed. And it's a way to find the colloquial meanings and the in-depth meanings of various languages used in the book of Daniel to get an accurate translation as though you were standing in front of Daniel at that time and understood all of his colloquial references. Now, in that, it does speak of a man, a human, that will be making a deal with an, quote, alien god. And there's no mistake about it. It doesn't mean a god that doesn't belong in Israel. It is an alien god, full stop, period. And this alien god is coming to earth posing as a god, little g god. And it says in the book of Daniel that he will put himself above even the God of gods. Now, biblical scholars have stumbled over this particular phrasing, which I went to great lengths to retranslate in the latest edition of Cosmic Conspiracy. And basically it goes like this. There's a phrase in there which says, talking about the world leader under Satan's guidance, that he will put himself above the God of gods, above the desire of women, and above every other god. Now, okay, what does being above the desire of women have to do with being above the God of gods and every other god? They couldn't figure it out. The translators over the years have thought, well, maybe it's going to be, gay or something, a eunuch. We don't know. If you look at what Daniel was saying, remembering that he was raised until he was a teenager in the court in Jerusalem, he knew that the desire of the women of Israel, the mothers of Israel, was to be the mother of the Messiah that was to come. The desire of women was to be the mother of the Messiah, Son of God. So when you understand that and then go back and reread what Daniel wrote in a book that was sealed by God, to be opened up and understood now, you see that simple phrase there said, he puts himself above the God of gods, the Son of God, and every other god. And all those things are equal type structure in grammatic terms. You're talking about God, Son of God, and other gods. This guy, this ruler of the world, to gain control of the religions and the cultures, and convincingly, must have help from Satan and those who follow him. And I am sure that this year, with the increase in sightings we're seeing, that we are at the doorway for them making their presence known officially. This cannot happen until the people of the earth want help. To drive them to that point, the press has been accentuating, problems we've got, like with the food prices, with storm and climate change and threat of meteor strike, and a number of issues have been accelerated ahead of time to try to get the people to wake up that we've got a crisis. And these crises are real and developing. They're not to the point of extinction the people of the planet yet, but they are driving the people to want someone to solve the problem. How do we shield the earth? How do we stop this nuclear war, which is we're about to get to the edge of it in the Middle East over the Iran-Israel crisis? When the people of the world are thinking, if someone doesn't step in now, if God doesn't come now, the earth is destroyed and us with it. At that point, I think we will see the official announcement, the arrival of Satan and his crews on their ships with their technologies, and much like the movie V back in the 70s, they have made ships that are huge. Mile in diameter is not a problem with anti-gravity. Not a problem at all. And they will park over cities in various places, I'm sure, just like in the movie, and say, we mean you no harm. We come in peace. We're messengers of light. Angels of light, I think the Bible calls them, but still, that's what it's about. And I think this year, we're going to see that ushered in. We're approaching one.
Now, everything he's talking about now, I wrote about 45 years ago. Lucifer was the co-captain, one of the crew, one of the angels aboard the Earth ship Heaven, one of many built, like the Olympus, like the Valkyrie, that appears throughout legends. Even in the Indian Vedas, they talk about these craft that were able to come here. My guests that have been on my show, archeologists, have talked about a worldwide civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago. They had space flight, they had the flight capabilities. They could cross oceans in the blink of an eye. And it was from this worldwide civilization. And I wrote about that in both Lucifer and Solomon, and that's the fiction part of my shows, or simply of my books, the future books, Solomon and Lucifer. Solomon and Lucifer. Keep that in mind. You can get a screenplay that I did for HBO, and a Jewish lawyer who tried to control me, who tried to keep me from doing this. He failed. I still own all the rights and can do anything that I want. And when I find the people that we need to do this with, I will be coming out with more books and maybe even the films. There may be a way we can do this on a radio, on the internet. Again, there's a learning curve that I really don't want to do. I would prefer to do the writing and the staging of this and have help with the production. Back to Stan Deyo.
All these curves come to a head and frighten the life out of every human being that can think.
Amazing. I'm sitting here listening, and Stan, you can confirm you probably don't even know I wrote a book, so you haven't read it, but you just lifted a section of the book where I talked about the fallen, and my major theory that I'm now going to expand upon is that when they got kicked out of heaven and cast down into what I call the heavenly, that atmospheric realm you referred to, they got disconnected from the throne room. They lost all of their mojo, their power, except for their supernatural minds. Therefore, they had to get mankind to help them regain that power through building the technology. I think the Tower of Babel was a dry run. And now we are where we are in history, where everything that they needed to make their move is in place. And I just paraphrased some of what you just said. That's a large section of my theory of the fallen, the watchers, and the spirit of the Nephilim, which I believe are the demons that are active right now in society.
Right.
So many things have to happen before everything you just described, which was like the first, second, and third season of the X-Files all in one. And it's funny, before you came on, I've been just paying attention to what's going on. And as we know, this is Academy Awards night, and all day long, all that's been on TV has been Hollywood, 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 stars, stars, stars. None of what's going on in the world. And the control of the fallen, I believe, in Hollywood, to use that as a dissemination device to indoctrinate, to prepare the people over the last 50 or 60 years, has brought us to the place we are now. So in regards to that, everything you just said, it's going to take them a little while to, A, disarm America. Because if they try to do quickly what they're talking about now, we will have one of the worst civil wars this planet has ever seen. So they're going to have to it's going to take them a little time, don't you think, to break us down to that point?
No, I'm going to disagree with you there, and here's why.
Okay.
Logically, just logic. The situation in the Middle East with Iran and Israel is to the point where Israel is going to have to make some kind of action to defend itself. Now, whether it does it or whether someone else does it to make it look like Israel did to start the conflict doesn't matter. Maybe Damascus will be melted down or whatever. Russia has bilateral defense agreements, more on their side than the others, in the Middle East with several countries, Iran, Syria, and others, to defend them in the event that they are attacked by a foreign force. Now, Russia will not go down and help Iran to destroy Israel or invade Israel unless Russia can be fairly well convinced that its major enemy in this effort would be the United States, and that the major enemy has been neutered. Now, here are the time factors. We are approaching the next maybe 60 days when the clock strikes midnight, and it's time for the Israelis to strike against the Iranians. Before that happens, or as it happens, Russia has got to be assured that America cannot interfere with Russia's defense and attack on Israel, its defense of Iran, attack on Israel. That means that in the United States, we have to be in chaos here, whether it be by terrorist attack, whether it be by civil war, revolution over the gun control and various other things that are just so bad coming out of the White House, or some other factor. America has to be divided, a house divided, so it cannot stand against foreign enemies, and the people of America won't even be interested in helping anybody over in Israel or whatever, because they'll have their own problems at home. That means that things will have to happen rapidly this year, and in the first half of the year, I believe. I mean, we're approaching that moment where all the pieces are coming together, forcing the timing. And if you recall, Jesus does mention the fact that at the end times, it will be like the travail of a woman in labor. Right. She will have, the contractions are closer and closer together. The Braxton Hicks contractions all form together and form the massive one for the birth. Right at the end, everything just comes bang, bang, bang. And that's what we're seeing now. Things under the Obama administration in the United States have been happening so quick that my jaw drops every week when I read the news. How can it be this quick? So when you say you think it will take longer, the reason I disagree is just as I stated, for the time factors of the Middle East situation, which is God's time clock, Israel, and for that to happen and for America to be neutered so that it can't help means that we have to have some severe problems here at home very rapidly this year.
Well, one of the things that I've stated and even put into writing, when he got inaugurated, everything went into overdrive. The second inauguration, what I believe the Lord showed me was like putting the key in the engine, got turned. Everything went into overdrive at that moment. And we've seen all that's happened till then. And you're right, what he's doing with his administration, I'm not even sure, I think he personally think he's a puppet, but what they're doing is just so shocking that first they've taken control of the media so that nobody's talking about it. And every day a new thing happens, and you sit there like you said, with your jaw dropping, going, is anybody paying attention here? Because the dominoes just keep falling. And using your illustration, dominoes start slowly, but then they take off. And it's, next thing you know, it's over. So I do agree with you in that regard, because with the earthquakes that are happening, the food shortages, the volcanoes, if all of this starts to happen at once, the ping pong effect, I call it, and in the midst of that, we have civil unrest. You're right, we wouldn't be able to go to Israel's help. And I personally believe that the only way he will get Netanyahu to agree.
Here we are again. Stan Deyo has been taken in by the whole Israeli deception, I believe. And now he may be trying to point the finger at Lucifer, who may be the actual resistance fighting for freedom of the individual.
To a two-state solution is a quiet backdoor promise to back them up on Iran, an attack on Iran that he will renege on. That's the only thing I think Netanyahu might fall for. I'm hoping he's not that deceived. But all of this,
No, sorry, go on. All of this what?
I said, well, no, you were going to say something about when I said I hope he's not that deceived.
The issue with Obama is a very interesting one, because, as you say, I think he's a puppet, and he's not the right, genetic heritage and birthplace type guy to be from the revived Roman Empire.
Right. Right.
So if he, even convinces Netanyahu to that two-party or that two-state solution, I don't think that he will be the Antichrist. The Antichrist will, the prince of that time, will ratify that, will agree to it, but I think he'll come out of some other country. There are a couple of ideas in that, but look, the Russian invasion of Israel has to come at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. I say that because of this. After the Russian invasion is thwarted by miraculous means on the mountains of northern Israel, after that happens, they will burn in Israel the weapons left behind for 7 years. Now, if the Messiah had come, they wouldn't need to burn the weapons, for firewood or anything else. When the Messiah comes, they'll have their own source of power and light and love and everything else. So to burn for 7 years means at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation, the Russian invasion has to occur. This puts it very close to where we are now due to a number of other factors of timing and the age of a generation. For 7 months after Israel, or after some miracle kills the army of Russia as they invade Israel, for 7 months they will send special details out to find the dead bodies of the soldiers killed and mark them for burial. Now, why would they mark them for burial? Probably because other teams are coming with hazmat suits, biowarfare, chemical warfare, something kills them, and they don't want to leave them there. They'll gather the bodies up and bury them in a safe place. But it's very important to get rid of all the bodies. Otherwise, the Bible would not have mentioned that as one of the factors. 7 months for that, 7 years to burn the wood. And the guy to sign it or ratify it to be the Antichrist will probably be, out of the revived Roman Empire, whether it be East or Western leg, I don't know, but possibly the Eastern leg. But anyway, here we are at this point. Again, we see the necessity for things to move rapidly. Now, somewhere at the very beginning of this, and maybe over the Russian invasion, what a thought. Anyway, at the Russian invasion of Israel, the alien satanic presence must make itself officially known to offer help.
Yes.
So you can just see. I mean, you're right. Hollywood has been used. Spielberg knew it. Look, I had people in his organization contact me, writers and stuff, years ago, probably 10 years ago, And we negotiated and talked about scripting, whatever. And the vote was because of his holdings, and because of other people's graphic production companies that depend on government contracts so heavily, they didn't want to risk making a movie to blow the lid on this. Now,
right.
I don't know whether we have time left. Certainly it wouldn't stop me trying to produce something like that, but I think, I was thinking this morning, as I wrote you an email a while ago, I was thinking about, we need to do something like this. Why can't we get Hollywood or, some of the Christian groups to actually fund this kind of a thing? Because it's so plain it's happening right now. And it'd be great TV, but at the same time, wake people up.
My voice is going to break here. When I got saved in October of '88, I got saved out of the entertainment industry, and I knelt down in a makeshift altar in my apartment in New York, which was just a box with a tablecloth on it. And I said, Lord, if you'll let me, I will go back into Hollywood, and I'll shine the light of your truth into every dark corner and expose Satan for who he was. And, of course, being an immature Christian, I thought he was going to open the door right then, and I went to Hollywood, and I tried to strike deals, and I learned the hard way that nobody wants to hear the name of Jesus, and they definitely don't want the truth. Fast forward to January of 2008, the Lord said, lay it all down, walk away. So I did. All those years, all that work, 20 scripts ready to go, production-ready scripts, sitting in my office here ready to go, walked away from it. At the beginning of this year, the Lord said, pick it all back up.
Really?
The name of my company is called Firefall Productions. And the name came from the fact that the Lord inspired me to bring the fire of Mount Carmel down to show whose God is God, but also the fire of the upper room upon the remnant to awaken them one last time before the return of the King. So I believe, brother, that that's going to happen. Bypassing Hollywood through digital technology the way it is, instead of taking years to do a feature film, now you can do them in months. And I'm talking quality stuff, not some of the stuff that goes out there. So I believe you're right on track. I believe the timing of all this to expose the fact that these aliens are really fallen angels and that we are on the verge of what I, use the Lord of the Rings term, the return of the King, the real King.
Right.
Having said that, while you were talking and in listening to the show, last week, the repeat, a theory I've had, which you mentioned and we've talked about, is I believe that the alien's going to play good cop, bad cop.
Right.
Because I believe we're going to have one set, probably the reptilians, the really ugly ones, are going to come in and play bad cop. And then the good ones, the humanoid, the beautiful ones, will show up to stop them. But it's like professional wrestling, where they've all met in a back room, who's going to be the bad guy, how it's going to play out, and they're all in on it. That's my theory of what's getting ready to happen, and I believe 2013, you're absolutely right, is the time frame, because I personally believe this is the year that the New Madrid fault goes. This is the year, in my opinion, from what I believe the Lord told me about a month ago. I looked at your picture from the flood lines. He told me in 2008, if they split Jerusalem, I will split your nation. And
wow.
When I looked at your picture, I looked at the New Madrid fault, and I heard the Lord say this year.
Wow. Interesting.
Now, if that happens, we will be thrust as a nation into massive chaos. Now,
yes.
For our people, what would happen if the New Madrid fault went?
Well, boy, all kinds of things could happen because of the east-west trading. A lot of our production, food, and all that kind of stuff is on the west side of the New Madrid, and the heavy population of the country is on the east side. And with the storms damaging what they have, and so many farms being just walked away and bankrupt. I mean, there was over 12,000 of them that we lost last year. Small family farms gone. That break up the New Madrid would cause all kinds of economic and job communication. Getting to and from work, all kinds of problems like that. And something that big would probably trigger other fault lines in the area and possibly even over on the West Coast. Along the lines of what you were talking about with this alien business and Hollywood, don't you think that if we're going to warn people about them and the plan, that we need to do it before they actually appear so that it's not like sour grapes?
Absolutely.
Well, that means you better be getting your script ready.
Yeah, well, that's why at the beginning of the year when the Lord told me to pick them back up, he also told me to start tweaking them and bringing them up to date, which is what I've been doing.
Excellent. Excellent.
And in the same time, he's been opening doors to me, to people that I haven't talked to in 20 years. And then I'm going to put this out there. I've been having dreams for the last month of being back in the Hollywood community and reconnecting with old friends, and that has started to happen. And so the Lord being the master general, captain of the host that he is, he would just wait. Why is the serpent meek as dove? What does that mean? A snake does not strike until it absolutely has to, and it will be decisive in its final move. It doesn't faint. It will strike, and I think that's what the Lord's going to do. He's waited, and when he makes its move, it's going to be sudden, and it's going to be overwhelming, and the enemy will not be able to react to it in time.
And gentle as a dove probably means basically the way you're talking about in the media or the video media. It gets into their minds and tells them about it, and it defeats the enemy with knowledge, the right knowledge.
Right, and that was the goal, was when I would go pitch this to very wealthy people, and we don't have time to tell you the abuse I took from some of the wealthiest men in this country. The idea was, I just want to tell them the truth, plant the thought in their head, then they walk out and do what the enemy's been doing. Their mind begins to go, wait a second, that's what he was, and this might mean this, and what about that? And then they get to choose. So when they stand before him on that great white throne and he shows them their life, he will show them that moment that they could have made a choice and chose not to. That's all I want to do, is give them the opportunity to make a quality decision. After that, it's on them.
Well, you're talking about the wealthy people you talk to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you mentioned something else about...
Now, this is exactly what I'm doing when I'm working on the Solomon novels and the Lucifer novels. When I'm doing this radio show, I'm trying to give you a chance. You can make a choice. You can back the right people, or you can do like you did last year, I believe it was, when you Republicans and Democrats donated $1 billion to your various parties, all of which are working against you. They're part of the problem, and you financed them. You gave them $1 billion. They turned around and gave that to the media companies that are being controlled and only giving you what they need to keep you programmed in the right direction. And that is compliance. That is surrender. That is, okay, we'll do what you want, Lord, without ever knowing who the Lord is. This is what I try to do for you. And the Free American, in my magazines, in my website, and in my books, and in my films. Go to freeamerican.com, go to shop.freeamerican.com, and get those. Make a donation or order something. Everything that you order from me, you will be getting the information you need. Stan Deyo.
The kind of the grand second awakening of the believers and potential believers that aren't quite there yet. They don't have to be wealthy, but I think we're going to see a very short but surprisingly large revival of the Christian faith, the way it should be. And to do this is going to be something like, you're talking about, like the media, a release that makes them all aware of what's happening. Instead of in churchy terms, this is in real life terms, and they understand it. It's been sealed until the last days. The Lord told us that. You know that. I know that. And
this is what Jade Helm has done for us. This is what Jade Helm is doing. You can go up and talk to your city councilman about the gun control, about the Jade Helm, and we can start forcing people to start thinking in the right directions.
Just feel it in my bones that what look, the stuff you and I also exchanged an email today about the new Swabenland. You know, the Hitler's redoubt down in the Antarctica. I know more about that, which maybe we'll put into your script. I don't know, but these kind of things, if people could see how it all lays together, how it fits, and it fits biblical prophecy as well. They just, they'll have no excuse to say, why wasn't I told?
Well, and if we take the fact that Hollywood, or I jokingly call it Hollywood, since 48, since Israel became a nation, since the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and since the Roswell event. I believe that was the beginning of the fallen making their militaristic move piece by piece. And then finally, they've been using Hollywood to indoctrinate, set the people up. But really, what I believe they've done is actually done us a favor, because now I don't have to explain who the Nephilim are. There's so many video games and movies coming about the Nephilim. There are movies about the giants. Everything that we've been talking about on the show for 3 years that nobody knew about, the secular world now knows. So I don't have to explain that to them. I now just have to take that storyline and say, hey, why don't we just flip this over here and let me show you what it really is.
Right. And they've been prepared. The subliminal and sometimes very obvious plans have been made.
Now, you talked about the media, and this is one of my pet peeves. But one of the things that I've been working on, and this is kind of why I continue to study Tesla. Tesla's, according to what I've read, he is probably the father of the Wi-Fi technology. Am I correct?
Well, certainly if you count him as the father of radio before Marconi, yes, it all dates back to that, yeah.
Right, he found a way, because he understood the very low frequencies, and that instead of putting up all these towers, he could use the Earth as kind of a broad broadcast medium. And now we have HARP technology. We are enveloped with wireless technology. We are enveloped with broadcast material. And now we have the smart meters on our homes, which I just had a light bulb moment today. We have these smart meters on our homes. We have these smart wave towers that they put up in the 80s for nuclear war still functioning. You add the chip to that component, and now the fallen have the ability to create a hive mind and to manipulate mankind on a worldwide level.
Yes, true. You know, talking about Tesla, you remember in the late 30s, just after 35 somewhere, he proposed to the U.S. government that he could build them a special kind of electromagnetic shield to stop all aircraft getting into the country if they wanted to defend themselves. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. People took it to mean that he meant directing a ray at a targeted craft. But if you study Tesla's methods, like you were talking about with that tower, he could set up a tower, which he did in Colorado Springs here. You could set up a tower and make a low-frequency wave that goes out around the Earth's surface all the way around to the exact opposite point from where the tower is, but the exact opposite point on the other side of the Earth. There, that kind of wave would meet itself, compress to a very fine point, and then bounce back and come back up to the transmitter here where he started. And he would add some more energy to it as it bounced back from here back to the bottom.
We like war!
Adding energy.
We like war! We're a warlike people! We like...
With that wave and building up a huge, strong electromagnetic field with a standing wave in it. Now, why is this important? With a standing wave, it has a density at certain altitude where it peters off beyond that and below that. And it also treats electrical circuits flying through it as though it were a permanent magnetic field they were flying through, and it generates back EMF currents and EMF currents all through, say, missile guidance systems, and destroys not one but all that fly through it above a certain speed. Now, the reason I find this really interesting is that you know that I do the earthquake predictions. I've been doing it now for about 2 or 3 months. And part of what I use is satellite data on the rapid changes, whether it cools or heats, of the sea surface. And it's what we call a second-order derivative of the data we get to show the rate at which these anomalous temperature changes are occurring. And from that rate and some other things with electrical fields, I can determine where an earthquake is going to occur about 85 to 90% of the time, within 1 to 10 days ahead of time. Well, I was looking at this in mid-January. And, you know, I get the map in the morning, I process the data, and it takes a couple hours to go through all the rigmarole. And I noticed a very kind of elliptical, odd-shaped set of rings of temperature, rapid temperature changes between New Zealand and Easter Island, down the South Pacific. So I thought, well, yeah, and I guess that's a storm down there. I'll check and see if there's any volcanoes under the sea there to generate such a rapid change and make a perfect pattern like that. And, well, no, I couldn't find anything, and I put it aside. And the next day, it was still there. The colors were moving. It wasn't a storm. I thought, well, surely is there a volcano down there we don't know about? I looked around again, couldn't find anything. With, in the bathymetry maps of the ocean, I couldn't find anything. So, okay, and another day went by. It got stronger and stronger. I thought, what is going on here? Well, suddenly I remembered Tesla, and I said, what's on the other side of the planet from the center of this circle of temperature variations? So I traced back to the exact antipodal point, to the exact opposite side of the planet, and you know where it landed? On Romania, on an Air Force base at Devaselu in Romania, where the United States and NATO are building a missile defense shield base and spending $500 million on it. Now, that's just too good to be coincidental. So I kept watching. And for another couple of days, it increased, and then gradually it dissipated and was gone. Now, the U.S. Navy has done testing of stuff like this in the early 60s at Pine Gap in Australia, in Exmouth, the Northwest Cape in Western Australia. I mean, I've even got pictures of their towers and their arrays where they generate these Tesla-type waves there in the 60s. In fact, I've even got 2 or 3 of the capacitors out of the system that ran it here in my house. Now, why would the Russians be excited about a missile shield ostensibly to defend the NATO alliance countries from missiles that Iran might shoot at them? Well, I can't figure out why it would bother Russia, because we can't really use that kind of a missile defense shield to defend the United States against Russian-launched missiles, either east or west, because we would have to have such fast rockets to chase their missiles and catch up to them and destroy them accurately. Instead of meeting them head-on or at oblique angles to head-on, we would have to go really fast, faster than most things are even made to work at hypersonic speeds, in the real world. Now, so I think why Russia was more upset about that missile base is because they knew that we were going to be putting in a Tesla-type transmitter there, which I saw the early testing of in January. And that field, if it established in Romania, would be so strong in the atmosphere over Europe and Russia that anything flying at a specific speed above X, what might be 2,000 miles an hour or whatever, and between an altitude of blah and blah, would short out and burn and crash. Now, I would be upset then if I were Russia if you're putting one of these mantles over my country. What happened then is... Okay, what happened then, to my surprise, was this field disappeared after about 10 days. I thought, well, okay, I guess they were testing it. The base isn't ready till 2015, so this is a preliminary test like they did in Australia, okay. And then a few days later, a big, long, elliptical thing just like that occurred over a fault line leading into Chile, right over Easter Island into Chile. And it stayed, and it stayed, and it stayed. So, okay, let me get out my little other side of the planet calculator and see what's on the other side of the planet. Well, there are 2 things, because it was a long trough. There are 2 places. One is a NATO U.S. base in Mongolia, and another, right to the west of it, is in China at an oil refinery in the middle of nowhere with a lot of equipment and buildings around called an oil refinery. I think that we have another base, and the Chinese have one, and they're all playing games at the moment with these Tesla-type transmitters. I know this is long-winded, and perhaps...
No. I think we just stumbled on something here. Hold on, Joe. I think we just stumbled on something here. Somebody within the Russian government said that meteor exploded in the sky because of some kind of defense system, and maybe what you just described was a practice run that day. That meteor was coming in off of those other things, and they tested it, which I think the fallen through mankind stole Tesla's technology since World War II, because some of what you're describing, the Nazis used with the Foo Fighters and the cause planes when they flew into certain areas over the Black Forest, all electronics shut down just like when a UFO was present. But now on a worldwide level, I believe that meteor exploding in the sky, because I kept sitting here going, why'd it explode in the sky? And then you got that guy from the Russian Democratic Movement, I don't have his name in front of me, screaming that was the Americans, they were testing some kind of defense system.
Oh, that is priceless. I didn't hear that. Wow. Well, listen, go to my website and look at the animations and the pictures of all that stuff I was telling you about. It'll explain it. Go to standeyo.com, and we're up at the top of the page.
I'm on your page. Good.
Okay, well, up there where it says Stan's Corner in the orange box, is right in the middle of it, says Stan's Corner.
Uh-huh.
Click on that.
Got it.
Okay, go down to the bottom of that page. See where it says Stan's Show Images?
Uh-huh.
Go there.
Okay.
And the first thing you'll see at the top row there is Missile Shield Anomaly. Click on that.
I got it.
Okay, now there are details of everything I was showing you, the fields that I saw, the base, the antipodal point, the airstrip, Pine Gap, and the X-Mile Cape, and then an animation at the bottom showing how that ring goes out, that Tesla wave goes out from Romania and goes around the Earth. It's in color 3D animation. This is... I had not put that together. That is incredible thought there, Richard.
I got goosebumps on me. I got goosebumps on me. You could build condominiums.
Wow.
All right, Jim, jump in here because I'm speechless.
No, I'm pretty speechless too because exactly what the question I was going to kind of answer about how everything happened, you answered the question. It's amazing. What I find what this show is amazing tonight is just the fact that a lot of the stuff that you and I, Richard, had talked about and thought, and of course you put together some nice theories. Stan just kind of like filled in those gaps to say, hey, you know what, we are all on that right track or something. So it was amazing how I am just sharpened iron tonight. I have learned so much, and Stan, you actually pieced, that question I asked at the beginning of the show. I mean, you just kind of laid it out in really descriptive. It was perfect because now I have a better understanding of how everything is playing out as well. So, I do appreciate that, and thank God for you, for you coming on the show and sharing a lot of your insight. My question to you now, Stan, is what can we expect, in your opinion, what can we expect as we're, in the second month here in 2013? What do you think that we'll see in 2013 to come as we go into, the end of the year? Like, what would you say is something pivotal that we could be looking for in 2013?
Oh, Lord. I think that a peaceful life is not amongst them, the things that we'll be looking for in 2013. There are just so many people. I mean, just look at the United States, for instance. There's so many people unemployed here that, we were used to a cush life and everything will be right in America and, the government will take care of it. Now it's all falling apart thanks to a lot of behind-the-scenes assassins trying to kill America. And what we're seeing is over 25% real unemployment. 1 in 4 people don't have work. And that's the real figures, right? We're seeing the U.S. dollar just collapsing, prices of gold and silver doing weird things, dropping when they should be rising. China and other countries buying as much gold as they can in their international banking groups. And with these things in place, and with a meteor that came close, and little meteorites, flying around after the fact and making booms over the thing, with the Earth itself expanding, I'm thinking we're going to see some real seismic activity this year. I'm already seeing it on the west side of the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. Richter 5 earthquakes on that side in the last 30 days have been 4 to 1 in number over what happens on the eastern side, north or the west coast of the United States and South America. And now then that trend in my maps is starting to reverse. I'm seeing the potential for quakes from the tip of Argentina all the way up the west coast, all the way up into Central America, all the way up into Alaska. And I'm seeing strange things like a chain of pearls almost, the signals that I'm getting to tell me that earthquake pressures are building. Now, they don't have to happen, but 85 to 90% of the time, they do. And the only thing that saved Los Angeles in the last 2 months from a serious earthquake, I mean a big one, is the fact that the San Andreas is not the only fault there. There are a lot of other ones all around going over into Nevada as well. And when the pressure builds up, and I see it, and I put the circles there, I'm expecting a bigger earthquake I get that kind of energy. I get 34% more earthquakes in that area in the week that I tell you, and it distributes over all these fault lines as little quakes, which is great at the moment as long as that whole network holds together. If that goes, especially the one up in Cascadia in the Juan de Fuca plate just off the shore of Washington, Oregon, that earthquake could be probably about a Richter 9 or better. And this is from the official USGS data on it, and other seismologists around the world have been studying the Ring of Fire. That big Richter 9 off of Indonesia a few years back that caused a tidal wave and killed 250,000 people or more, that was the beginning of the plate starting to break up there on that side of the world. It's now moving toward our side of the world, and all these sinkholes that we're seeing, to me, are an indication that another factor is at play, and that is that the core of the Earth is expanding, and hence the Earth's surface is expanding and weakening the cohesive force, the gravitational force that holds sand and dirt and rock together sideways. You know, the sideways pressure is weakening as the surface of the Earth expands and becomes thinner. Not a whole lot.
All right. Well, something to look forward to. Prepare at home, talk to your neighbors, and support the Free American. We're trying to bring you the information from the world's best intellects. God bless you all. Thank you. Thanks for listening. FreeAmerican.com to make a donation or buy a book. Shop.freeamerican.com.